Oh boy, welcome guys to one of my videos in which I profusely tinkle on something quote unquote people like and call it a review. This time I'm gonna talk about a game that I was kinda, sorta, hopeful it wasn't going to be bad. I thought, this might look different from the rest, might be worth a shot. And it's different, alright, just a different type of bad game. This time it's turn to talk about Romeo Is, DeadMan, a game developed and published by Grasshopper Manufacture, released on February the 10th, 2026. I know it's March, it's been a month since this released, but I had things to do. Before I go into the actual game, you might know about Grasshopper Manufacture. It's the Japanese studio founded by none other than Suda51, real name Suda Goichi. Wow. Now every time this studio announces a game, I hear these names more times than I would like to. The fame might be warranted since they have a habit of releasing kinda quirky stuff like the No More Heroes series from the times of the Wii. And fair when it's fair, that was three whole games I kept hearing about for a couple of years and haven't played myself, so they had to have something going for them. In contrast, if I hear about Romeo Is, DeadMan next month, I'm losing faith in humanity. This game should be waved goodbye and forgotten forever, unless you wanna shit on the studio if they decide to make another game like this, because it is, at the very best, like actually being generous for the amount of soul that they poured into it, way below mid. All in all, Romeo should have stayed dead. Now let's talk about the actual game, starting with the gameplay, which is whatever, and certainly not good enough knowing that it's just a generic beat 'em up game once you look under the hood. You go through separated levels that have you collecting stuff and unlocking doors in between killing enemies up until it's boss fight time. You beat it, you collect these things that have a vapid description and offer nothing. They're completely useless to either you or the plot. Get out of the level and go to the hub that connects all the story and non-story levels. The weapons options aren't the best either. You have 8 weapons, all upgradable, for melee, for ranged, so at least in my experience, there was no reason not to. Pick the double spear Arcadia for melee and the machine gun for ranged, upgrade them and stick to them from the moment I unlock them to the very end of the game. All weapons feel the same. It's just that these are the best at getting me out of the fights ASAP, and as you can imagine, I ended up really wanting that. The combat is just that, generic at best. You have light and heavy attacks that can be comboed and infinite ammo. The enemies have weak points and most of them can be abused. Hitting enemies fills a gauge that allows you to do from 1 to 3 enhanced attacks called Bloody Summer for whatever reason that heal you. Actually, it's not generic at best, it's way below that. For starters, it doesn't accomplish to hide the fact that it's all the same, and it very rarely turns into a task that the game throws at you, like the worst kind of grinding in video games. And after thinking more about it and mentally fleshing it out, I think it lacks a lot of stuff. I'll try to explain with examples. In some of the cutscenes you can see Romeo doing kinda crazy stuff, like he's not bound by his body. Kind of, video gamey, quote unquote. And when I was in control I realized Romeo, for being an android who grew a whole ass arm, and again, apparently can do this, and this, is pretty heavily shackled by the capabilities of a normal human being. There's no aerial combat. I can't uppercut or upward slice an enemy and send them flying to continue hitting them mid-jump. You can't push enemies away from you, you can't pull them close to you either, and aside from Bloody Summer and Death Conversion, which I forgot it is in the game, actually, there are no other special cool moves. All in all, what I'm trying to say is the combat is pretty lame. Yeah. Just that. I don't want this game to be something like Devil May Cry. If I wanted to play something like Devil May Cry, I would play Devil May Cry. But if you want to make a crazy action game, and the action is several tones down in relation to everything else, not realistic, but restrained in a way, it's going to suck dick. Romeo has been turned into an android. By sticking a piece of tech in his eye, he grew a new cyberarm on a helmet, but God forbid this gives him special powers or something. No. He's still very much a lame, realistic human being. Yes. Why? Just fucking why? Beating them off doesn't feel rewarding, doesn't matter if they add slow-mo or whatever when you kill them off that's stronger than a regular zombie. Who thought this was a good idea? It's the same with the particles. In a time when GPUs and RAM sticks are going parabolical price-wise, you're just gonna be like, oh wait, I've got an idea, let's just throw in 1 trillion particles every time they hit an enemy, forget about performance. I'm an artist. Also slow-mo, yeah, people like that at some point, right? Fuck it, let's put it in the game. Appreciate it, Grasshopper. Whenever I have an encounter in your game and I hit an enemy, the screen turns into a puddle of colored paint and my PC turns into a neutron star. Fuck you very much. The bosses are not difficult, but it's okay since I played on normal difficulty. I think half of them I killed on my first try. The only one that got stubborn was the last boss, but then I started thinking, I pulled the strat and it turned pathetic. actually pathetically easy. I'll talk about it later. And I'm not going to forget the worst part about story levels, right? The subspace. They made the levels longer by adding empty spaces in which you have to go from point A to point B without encountering a single enemy, only to, some of the times, open a door, get out of the subspace, and appear at another place in the story level, and not without passively engaging in the philosophical monologue of a dude trapped in a TV whenever you go in or out. This is just boring. This is padding that only subtracts from the experience, but they thought it was a good idea to add. Probably because it looks weird and different. It's just bad. It's just bad. Oh, you know what my crazy action game needs? Less action. No good and or memorable action game series has this. Also, if I wanted to have some philosophy, I would read a fucking book, for fuck's sake. Or at least play a game with an actual story, not this abortion. There are also non-story levels in which you fight mobs and collect items, nothing else, but they can get very, very hard. How hard, you ask? This hard. Whenever you're not fighting in the level, you're collecting pieces of info relevant to the level or the general plot, badges that apply modifiers like more damage and stuff when equipped, currency or items for the things you can do at the hub, where you can upgrade your weapons, your stats, buy other items, cook, yes, cook, grow zombies out of the ground like plants, because that's a thing, grind boss trials for currency, and participate in the single worst side thing of this entire video game. I'll explain part by part. Weapon upgrades. Like I said, just do the spear and the machine gun and forget the rest even exist. Stat upgrading. You go into a minigaming where you spend currency to make sort of a Pac-Man like thing advance through a maze where you collect upgrades for your stats. Is it unnecessarily quirky? Yes. And I'm just waving that away because the game is full of that and I can't be bothered. The shop. You buy stuff. The fuck else you want me to say? Cooking. On normal mode. Absolutely unnecessary. I used one of the meals I cooked in one situation by accident. You can fumble the cooking, by the way, because you're an android going through space-time killing monsters, but the cooking has to be the one thing that is somewhat realistic. Boss trials. You bet currency on beating bosses that you already beat before under a specified time. If you do it, you get more currency. If you beat it but not in time, you don't lose currency. If you die, you lose the bet. This is where you farm currency for upgrades. Actually not bad, it is fine. The guarding. You grow friendly zombies to aid you in combat by doing stuff. Some of them attack, some of them support you. Too little reward for the amount of interaction you have to do if you decide to engage with the mechanic. And the infirmary, a place where you go to suffer. This is the side thing I told you about. There's nothing here but the nurse. You talk to her and it starts a minigame. What do you do in the minigame? You have a conversation with this woman. Like I'm not here playing a video game to avoid just that. By choosing the correct answer between 3 options to a question. If you choose the correct one, you go to the next one. If you fail, you get kicked out of the video game and have to restart. How many questions do you have to correctly answer to finish the minigame? 99. 90 fucking 9 straight questions you have to answer correctly. And you can't follow logic, by the way. Most of them make absolutely no sense, which force you to guess by trial and error. All of this for just a Steam achievement. I think I know what they tried to do. You see, games which quote-unquote demand skill do this thing sometimes in which there's some side quest or minigame that will be one of, if not the hardest thing you can complete inside the game. Like the way they engineer a very demanding platformer routine in a platformer game with a reward at the end. The thing is, this is good when 2 things combine. A mixture of real test of skill and perseverance and a fitting reward at the end. And this is nothing. This is nothing like that. This game is not even nearly good enough for you to even consider doing something like this, Grasshopper. This is not art, nor slop even. This is just dog shit. It's not even about the price, it's the process. I'm fine with just getting an achievement as long as it is a fun thing to do. But it's boring, it's painful. It actively discourages me from engaging with it. I like 100% in games, and this game is actively discouraging me from doing so. That's just great, you know, because that's what you do when you develop a video game. You discourage people from engaging with the video game. Now, regarding the story, there's no better way to say it. It sucks horribly. It's so bad, it's not even worth engaging with it. It's unnecessarily convoluted and choppy as fuck too. And in the end, nothing that has happened matters. which just makes it the worst. Anyways, the main protagonist, Romeo Stargazer, is a policeman in the fictional town of Deptford who finds a woman named Juliet lying on the road in one of his patrols. I'm telling you in advance, it's nothing like the play Romeo and Juliet, although they quote it once. We're mostly safe from insulting a classic. Romeo starts seeing the homeless woman outside of work and catching feelings for her. Then Romeo has a nightmare in which, in one of his times patrolling, a space-time event occurs in which a white zombie appears out of the blue and gravely injures him. Just moments before his grandpa, Ben Stargazer, appears riding a motorbike through a portal. Before the lights go out on Romeo, Ben sticks a bite in his grandson's eye, saving him from death while turning him into an android. He is now DeadMan because fuck knows. The nightmare ends up happening in real life just the day Romeo and Juliet wanted to flee together. Also, the entire city disappears in space-time, but Romeo survives and is picked up by a bunch of space FBI agents with a spaceship. Yes, really. To try and fix shit while looking for Juliet, since she apparently is a space-time criminal being chased by space vets. Ben dies, but sticks himself in Romeo's jacket to accompany him, and unfortunately us, throughout the game. He also doesn't really die because Ben from another timeline appears in the FBI ship sometime after, so now we have two unfunny Dr. Emmett Brown wannabes. Throughout the plot, Romeo finds and fights many different Juliets, and we find and fight some of them. By her own words, all of them are the real Juliet, even though all of them are different from one another. This makes sense because timelines, but also find and fight other space-time criminals wanted by the space vets. Episode 1. We find ourselves inside a forest, which serves as a tutorial. Nothing remarkable to say about it at all, until we reach the boss, which is one of 7 different Juliets who, after ripping her own head off, turns into a giant fat monster. This move is a common theme amongst bosses in this game, just don't think about it. Also, for the sake of brevity, I'm skipping over the times in which the plot presents past and or future events that may or may not have happened off screen, as if somebody will be already engaged enough to care. I bet they felt like they were writing One Piece here. Episode 2. We meet the crew of the spaceship for the second time by doing grunt work for the price of a Hindu beverage, just right after the meeting in which we meet the crew for the first time. Why? I genuinely think it's because the developers somehow know these characters are just that forgettable. The most important ones could be replaced by completely generic, quote-unquote crewmate A, B, C, etc. and there will be no difference. Then we get told a criminal has been detected and we go into action. We get the coordinate for the location of the criminal by playing Pong. We steer the ship and close the distance to the space-time rip and watch 2 cutscenes. This set of activities is repeated every time we get in a new gate, and of course it gets very old and stale after the second time. Then after the level, we get to meet our target. Confederate soldier who did a little racism back then, turned space-time criminal. Said act is told to us in a very shitty monologue he spurts out after fighting him if you don't press the button to end him, which, believe me, there's no reason not to press it the moment you can. The monologue is shit. Also, for some reason, the credits roll after every episode, like it's a TV series, and it's unskippable, by the way. I hate it. If you had the misfortune of playing this game, you have realized by now that the dialogue is one of the worst things in this game. Sometimes it tries too hard to have weight and importance, while other times makes the player feel like it doesn't even take itself seriously. The humor is dogshit, filled with millennial type quips, and it's lame as hell when it's serious. This has been said ad nauseam, but it truly feels like it has been written by Reddit, by Japanese Reddit. I stopped caring in episode 4 because I really couldn't be bothered to keep up with it. It's heavy yapping, lame as fuck. Also, I got hit with a bug which hard locks you inside subspace in episode 4 if you get killed by the boss. So you have to start a new game, and that legitimately killed me a little inside. I'm skipping over one memory of Romeo and Juliet meeting at a dinner, and one of Romeo's nightmares because they had nothing. Moving on. Episode 3, Filler. It's a filler episode. It's like those 80-something episodes of Naruto that add fuck all to the series. You go into a VR training area, fight a boss out of the blue, get out, be forced into a combo with 2 of the very forgettable characters inside the ship, and go to sleep to end the episode. No wonder I had to watch the recording to write this part of the script. I just forgot that all this happened. It's that bad. Episode 4 would have been somewhat okay if it wasn't for that horrendous bug that made me restart the whole game, and the fact that they showed they started running out of ideas because you fight the boss of episode 3 again as it turns into the go-to mini-boss, so more low quality padding, and the god-awful cutscene before the level boss. If for some reason this video reaches Japanese game devs, Please, I beg you, stop using Reddit as source material to cater to Western markets. In fact, stop trying to cater to Western markets altogether. You're actively making your games worse by doing this. Anyways, you kill the boss, get a cutscene, go back to the spaceship and get another cutscene in which the crew talks about the nature of that boss and how it resembles a Japanese version of a comedy stand-up routine. They can tell you about it, but you can choose to make them not to. Actually, good instance of player choice. After that, in episode 5, we find mad scientist who takes control of a mental asylum to run experiments on people, and honorable mention for being one of the worst part of this game. It takes place in said asylum, and at first, it's fine, just dimly lit, until we get into a corridor that seems dilapidated. A cutscene happens in which something approaches Romeo, who after trying to release the device realizes his weapons are disabled, but it's fine because nothing happens in the end. Enter the corridor. It's basically a horror level with no action that loops in itself with some changes here and there until you break it and are allowed to have weapons and action again. Now, I've already ranted about having whole ass part of an action game where no action happens. What I have not ranted about is forced stealth in an action game. There is a part in this loop in which you have to walk past an enemy without being detected because you don't have your weapons. I have never heard about a stealth part in a non-stealth video game being good nor enjoyable. It just doesn't mesh well with the rest of the game. It feels like a hard stop on the action. A hard stop on the action that I didn't ask for. And speaking for myself at least, I don't play an action game for the sake of not having the action that the action game is supposed to have. Don't try doing stealth if you don't know how to do stealth. Any other kind of action would have been way more preferable than forced stealth. Anyways, moving on, I'm not talking about the minigames in which you have to make the face of a corpse match the one in the picture they have in the lab, because you can skip them after fucking around with each of them for like a minute or so. They haven't taken it seriously and neither will I. Once this god-awful part is done, you fight the boss and get some cutscenes. That's it. Episode 6 feels like padding extravaganza in my filler episode. That's great, too. You find a friendly zombie that gets in the spaceship at the end and is never brought up again. That's whatever, I guess. And the boss this time is Roman Gladiator, who is son of this guy in the FBI crew turned cult leader. You kill him, cutscene, get out of the level, cutscene, credits, cutscene, end of episode. Episode 7 is not different. It's the same map as in episode 4, but a little bit bigger and more time spent in subspace. Romeo dies in the end and gets teleported into a pixel space. Is it too obvious that I have stopped caring about everything and I'm just speeding through this? Episode 8. Romeo is actually alive, in subspace, where all of the level takes place, but there are enemies and you have your weapons. Thank God. Now I don't know if you're supposed to talk with the crew after every episode to get more pieces of the plot to stick together and make sense of it. I sure as fuck couldn't be bothered to do so. But all of a sudden, in a cutscene, a certain quote-unquote space-time king is mentioned. I have read those notes you pick up in every level, and there's no mention of him either. I think a godlike being that actually exists and probably has something to do with the story, such as the space-time king, will be name dropped a couple more times throughout the story, but fuck me, I guess. Many enemies and some very shitty cutscene-like combos over payphone later, we meet the guy who is the director of Space FBI, who is also the guy spewing shitty philosophical quips through the TVs. He is also a criminal, he gets shot by a crew member and imprisoned in Schrodinger's cat. Don't ask, just don't engage, don't think about it, because they don't explain either, they don't care. They just don't care either. After that, we find Juliet again, and Romeo shoots her with eye lasers. Again, don't think about it. There's a cutscene with Juliet, another cutscene in which Romeo monologues some nonsense reflecting on his path, another cutscene to enter the final gate all stupidly because they cannot not be autistic for 5 fucking seconds, another cutscene in which Romeo and Juliet quote Shakespeare, the one that I told you before. They did the thing, yeah, they did the thing. She calls her pets in to fight you as she just walks away. In the end of the game, you don't fight the target you've been chasing all this time. You don't even capture her. She just walks away and you fight her pet. Talk about a blue balling woman. By the way, listen to the final boss presentation.
I'm famous, intergalactic naked.
That's some S-tier voice acting right there. Holy shit. She does not care. Anyway, I thought this boss was difficult until I developed this strat. I just forgot about melee and shot him with the machine gun. Really. I also used bastards to stop the big attack, but that's it. Shot her and used the bastards. Took me 15 minutes to beat, but I beat it. That's it. We got a cutscene with literal bullshit in it. Evangelion made more sense than this. And finally, we get the final credits. Romeo gets old, forgets about Juliet and turns into evil space FBI director, closing the circle. Yes, that's a thing. We don't know what happens with Juliet. We forgot about her, apparently. The other characters that nobody gives a shit about get some more story. They get more story than Juliet, while the credits roll and the game ends. Not without an anime-style cutscene in which a grown-up sister of Romeo pilots a mecha and fights a version of Romeo that's evil and inside another mecha. This adds nothing to the story, does not tie any loose knots, and I don't know why it's there. The end. One of the worst fucking stories I have ever experienced. And with this, I think I've said everything about this game that actually matters. I guess the graphics are okay, like I said, too many particles at one instance, but it's just that, okay? Like, graphics haven't improved since years ago. They're just okay in every video game ever. In every video game that has the latest graphics, they're just okay. The music is also okay. It is hypey, and I like hypey music in action games, but it's just okay because I forgot about the music a couple of days after I started listening to the music. I just forgot about it. That's that, I guess. My opinion, the game is shit. Don't buy it. The game is fucking shit, man. I guess I sorta expected it to not be bad, like I said, but it's bad. I don't like it. It's fucking bad. I don't know what they were thinking about. And I get this studio makes quirky, different stuff, and they put soul in the game and all that stuff. But making that doesn't mean your game is doing different quirky stuff and putting soul in it. It's not gonna automatically mean your game is good. It can be just bad, but with soul, with a bad soul. It's just bad. Like, it's very, very bad. It's the first game in a while in which whenever I played it, I felt more and more tired. Like, the closer I got to finish the game, the more tired I was. But it had all of the bad stuff with nothing of the good. The Steam achievements, I got like 85% of the Steam achievements. One of them is the thing with the nurse that I'm not getting. Like I said, I like 100% in the games, but I'm not getting that. One of the other achievements is playing the game in hard difficulty. I'm not doing that either, because I'm not playing this game ever again. You cannot pay me enough. Nobody can pay me enough to play this game again. I said this. Now that I say this, somebody will pay me enough. Hopefully. Please pay me. Is it worth buying? No. Spend your money on something else. Like, buy yourself something nice. Buy your significant others something nice. Go on vacation or save. Buy stocks, but not this thing. Like, I actively ask for you not to buy this video game. There are way more better video games out there that will not make you feel tired after playing them. And if you don't want, you know what you can do. You know what you can do with your money? Save it and download emulators, because this game is way worse than other games that have been out for 20 years, for 30 years on consoles, and you can just access them via emulators. Like, don't play this game, don't buy it. It's that simple. Anyways, review done. Anyways, do whatever. Subscribe, hype, comment, whatever. I'll see you when I see you. Bye.